Well, my goodness, this is a tall order, especially to keep all of you entertained after lunch. I know 9 times out of 10 this is prime time nap time, but I promise this will be the most entertaining part of your day. So every day we get up and we think we're just going to milk cows, or we're just going to feed cows, or we're just going to consult on cows. But really what we're doing is we are writing a story of a cow's life. And that seems very simple to do. Sometimes it is, 9 times out of 10, it is not. So just a little taste of what's to come. This is what essentially Dellait 3D imaging looks like, just a little preview. So let's just go ahead and dive on into a little bit about what we do. So our 3D camera monitoring for body condition score, there's many reasons why we would want to track a cow's body condition score, especially during transition periods that are critical to her. So calving in, also real-time monitoring without eyes on her. I mean, especially if you're milking 10,000, 15,000 cows, it's hard sometimes to lay an eye on every single one of them. This is a very useful tool to help bring everything into perspective for you. Some, for us, ideal body conditions at key stages. So for us at Dellait, we like to have cows at calving 3.5 to 3.25, excuse me, to 3.5. Especially, she has those energy reserves to help her keep from having those metabolic issues. At peak lactation, we like to keep cows performing 2.75 to 3 and avoid losing. And especially when we're talking about repro, it's especially important that we consider body condition score, because we're going to experience changes at a 0.24, and you want to monitor where that's coming from, whether she's dropping or whether she's going up in body condition. So we have inverse effects when we're talking about body condition score too low. We have reduced milk, of course, lower fertility, higher disease likelihoods of other diseases as well. When we have too fat cows, also your feed efficiency's off, fatty liver, DAs associated with that, and then in general other health costs as well. So we think, yeah, fat cows, they're just eating too much, but realistically they're costing you a lot of money. And when we look at that potential savings, when we're monitoring body condition score, can be up to $400 per cow. That's a lot of money, especially when we're talking about large volumes of cattle. So we conducted a study in 22 over an entire lactation period, 2,300 cows roughly. Average body condition score at calving was 3.42. They had our cameras installed. Average body condition throughout was 3.29. That's where Dellait likes to keep the body condition score. And as I mentioned previously, that 0.24 drop post-calving kept them in prime condition for repro, especially as we're talking about tightening up those voluntary wait periods, shortening that calving interval, which is particularly important when we're talking about volume of cattle. Here, present is an ideal, well, I guess a laser doesn't show up on a TV, but this is an ideal of what you're looking for. That solid black line is her milk yield, and the dotted line, as you'll see presented, is her body condition score. And that's basically an ideal lactation for a cow. In comparison here, as you can see, the black line is the average during the trial And the dotted line behind it is a real-life use on one of our farms in South Dakota, milking roughly 6,000 cows. So the study kept up with real-life in the field data. Locomotion vibes. I know as dairy producers, you think this is what I'm going to use most every day, and as somebody who is marrying a hoof trimmer, I understand that lameness is very important, and it's really the tool that you're probably going to use every day. Your consultants are probably going to use body condition score, and you may look at it as well. But lameness can cause up to 30% drop in milk production per cow. Estimated cost, as you can see there, up to $250 per case of lameness. Cost range for treatment, it ranges. Our goal is to, as soon as we see a change, as soon as we see a drop in her angularity, we're going to send you a message, an alert, and you're going to know. Impacts, we have longer calving interval. We know that cows that can't move can't produce anything. If they can't move, if they aren't gaining weight, if they aren't, they won't get pregnant. And the ultimate goal, if a cow is not pregnant, she's not making you money. Also, particularly right now, we don't have replacement heifers. Replacement heifers are extraordinarily expensive. So having the longevity in your herd, crucially important, especially right now. And then, of course, when you're talking about implementing beef on dairy, very important things to consider as well. Shorter productive lifespan, as we talked about, which leads us to talk a little bit about livability, which I'm sure many of you who are familiar with genomics know about livability. It's a heritable trait. It encompasses many factors. Has anybody ever really defined what livability means? Well, we're going to do that here. So it's not just the longevity of a cow in your herd, it's also her health, her resistance to diseases, her productive performance, her adaptability, how is she going to transition during those periods, making her an efficient cow. So the objective of 3D cameras, it's essentially to make your tool better, whether that is you as a consultant, whether that is a complementary herd management protocol, whether that's just the management you have in effect right now. This could also be a standalone tool. Of course, as we talked about earlier, lameness monitoring, early intervention, that's key to profitability, which is essential as our herds are growing, as you are making your herds more scalable. Body condition score, of course. This takes your ability to precisely track groups of cattle. So we can take it as low as macro level, and we can look at each individual cow. But when you're managing thousands of cows, you really want to do that by group, and we're looking at a macro level. A feature that we didn't talk about earlier with body condition is our AI learning capability. Built into our software, which we will take a peek at shortly, we have artificial intelligence built into it that after a period of time, it learns the pattern of your herd and it projects, it will give you a prediction on how they're trending, taking into account different rations, different feed cycles, and periods of the year. So it will give you a little bit of insight into what your future may look like. Culling rates, as we talked about earlier, keeping them in your herd, and then of course increased milk production, which to me, I mean, that's a given. When we're feeding cattle, when we're raising cattle, increased milk production, that's everybody's goal. We make money from milk. But this is looking at strategic opportunities within your herd to make even more profitability. It's taking your already profitable cows and we're going to make them even more valuable. Lower stress. Happy cows make milk. Healthy cows make milk. Cow comfort is essential when we're talking, especially looking into the future. Consumers drive our business. We are a consumer-driven market. So ensuring our consumers that we're doing everything we can, utilizing every bit of new technology on the forefront, it's a story that's continuing to be told. So I'd like to show you a little bit of what this experience looks like from a software platform. And you can't see that, can you? Of course, a technology company with technical difficulties, it never fails, right? Technology is great when it works. In the meantime, while we're working on this, so far, are there any questions about what we've gone over so far? Any questions about the AI capabilities of body condition score? We're going to get into how we are tracking lameness and things. We don't have the AI capability in the lameness yet, but we do attack the lameness problem quite differently than anybody else is doing it at this point in time. Any questions?
Probably you're going to show us this, but like where would the cameras be mounted in terms of monitoring lameness?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is going to be next if we can make that work. So essentially, there's several different positions that it could be mounted in. Typically, it would be in your exit alley or a parlor entrance. There's a couple different routes that you can look at. And it would really probably be herd specific as well. We can make it as tailor-made to any specific farm. Honestly, I mean, it really can be farm specific. Yes, so of course it would correlate with an EID. We would have the ability to potentially use an existing herd monitoring system as well. We're willing to integrate with any company that's willing to integrate with us, and we have the capability to do so. But yes, as of right now, everything just as a standard correlates to an 840 number. That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking. No. The internet. Internet. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. You don't need a special tag for this. No. We operate off of the 840 tag. Of course, when we're talking about larger farms, EID is not a new concept to the dairy industry in the least, but like I said, we can, especially when you're talking about sort and things like that, your ID rate's always better when you're operating off of an independent system like a collar or something like that. But yes, 840 tags is perfectly sufficient for us. So thank you so much for your assistance. I wanted you guys just to take a look at this and really see. Of course, we know you have so many different screens that you're playing with every day. And this can integrate with your existing herd management software, so we're not just adding and piling on pages for you to look at. I just wanted you to see an example of what it does look like. So when we are looking at cattle, this is the 3D image. You can take this and turn it all different ways that you want to look at. And these are the points of reference. This is how we're measuring and get accurately measuring her body condition score. This is how we're also measuring her lameness. So we're looking at angles. We're looking at structural correctness. We're looking at the balance of that cow. We're looking at her width. We're looking at a cow with a solid foundation. That's what we're looking for. That's what our goal is. And that's why this is different. It doesn't matter her breed. It doesn't matter whether she has spots. We're not facial recognition. We are truly identifying these cows, and we are learning these cows based off of their skeletal structure. That is the difference maker here. So. My goodness. Well, we'll just slide right along here, I promise. No, they identify, it doesn't matter the breed of cow, it doesn't matter anything of that, because we're not using spots, we're not using any true like physical characteristic of her other than her skeletal structure. So breed doesn't matter. Spots doesn't matter. So this could work in many different operations. So we were talking about installation earlier. This is where we look at it. This is the exact dynamics, and this is important if you were installing it right now. But to get a true picture, this is lanes, like I said, exit alleys. This can be mounted on a sort. This can be mounted in the front of a parlor entrance, as we talked about earlier. Also, we have the ability to install them in robots for robot farms. Don't worry, we got you covered as well. Here's where the difference maker is. Linear measurements. We are measuring hook to hook, hook to pin, shoulder width, chest width, everything. This is where the accuracy comes from. So when we look over the top of that cow, I'm talking about the angularity measurements. This is where your lameness accuracy is coming from here. When we see a deviation here, this is where your lameness alert is going to come from. So we're not just monitoring her gait, we're actually looking at the skeletal make of this cow. So if something is to alter, we'll catch it right away. And we do have the ability, and I know you're thinking, well, let's say we have a group of 50 that have a hoof trim. Well, you put that event in your herd management software. We can build that threshold right in. And so you're not going to have a slug of cows come in the next day and cause you a lot of headache because they have a lameness alert on. Like I mentioned, chest width. We don't want narrow cows. Nobody wants narrow cows, but we don't want really big ones either. They don't need to be giants anymore. Depth of body, we're looking at that. All of these linear measurements here that we're talking about, this is how we get the ideal weight, because what I didn't mention earlier is we do also have the ability to estimate very closely what that cow may weigh, which anybody that raises heifers and is breeding heifers based off weight, that's going to be a feature for you to consider into the future. So we have two different styles of evaluation. You have your static evaluation, which is a cow standing still. That's just a still image of her. Like, let's say you have a sort gate that stops them, and before it swings the gate left or right for it to sort off. That would be a static evaluation for you. Dynamic is her moving through. It's her walking. And one thing to note is our camera is taking a series of pictures. It's like a video. I guess it would be like a flip book. You know, you take a book and you flip it. So we're not taking up a lot of data space either. That's one thing to note, because when you're taking live video, it just eats up a bunch of storage. And we all have a million computers in our dairy office already, and we don't need to take up any more data space than we need to. And so we're saving space by essentially taking a flip book of photos, and that's how we're capturing this. The story is yours to tell. We're a piece of the puzzle. The technology is ever evolving. The day that we stop looking for new technology and we stop looking towards the future is the day the dairy industry ends, or humanity in general ends. As I mentioned earlier, this is a tool that helps your tools work harder for you. So we can make this as complex as you would like it to be, or as simple as you would like it to be, because data is only good when you use the data. It's not our objective to just feed you a lot of numbers that you're never going to utilize. We want to make it usable for you to use. Any questions? Yes?
How many photos do you need for that AI model to be built for projections of body condition scoring?
So it takes a large quantity of photos. I couldn't give you the exact number, but it's a lot of them. I was going to say it's thousands, yes, of course. So, but I couldn't give you an exact 1,000 number of pictures for it to generate. Yeah, so it'll use like to date, and then it takes 5 to 7 days to build a database, just like anything else, like any other herd monitoring system would, to build the data for each individual cow. And then, yes, the predictability is modeled off of to date from the past. So anything that would be in that cow's cow card.
So where's that data stored?
On our cloud. We're a cloud-based system. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, we can merge the body condition score with days in milk. That is on, I failed to show it to you specifically on the screen, but yes, in whatever also herd management software, we could generate a task for it to do that, generate a list for you as well. Yes. Yeah. So she asked about cybersecurity and hacking, and that has been an issue not experienced by us, but by other software companies. I know that has been an issue. We have one of the leading Swiss companies for cybersecurity working with us, and to date that hasn't been an issue. Could I assure that would never happen? I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, I don't think governments would think that they would get hacked into. So for somebody to say that it couldn't happen to any company, I think would be far-fetched. What I can say is I do have the utmost faith in our cybersecurity. It has not been an issue thus far. And the companies we work on integrating with also, I know, take top priority on cybersecurity as well.
This is maybe a dumb question compared to some of the others. How do you ensure that the lens stays clean?
So the camera is mounted high. So it's about 8 feet high, and you can do it from the rear view, and you can also do it from the front view as well. Now, when you do have cameras lower to the ground, it is harder to keep them clean, and you would probably have to designate somebody to clean it off. I would say at least every session. I mean, essentially, depending on how dirty your alleys get. But usually, depending on the angle that if they're high up, you can get the front end, you can still get all the data that you need from it without mounting them low. Anything else? Yes. So we've been validated by numerous universities in the Netherlands, in the UK, in Spain as well. So we have had, this is, I would say the technology has been around for nearly a decade in Europe. We're just now introducing it here to the United States. Well, if that is it, I would love to thank you guys for your time.
Are we going to see a live farm, I thought, today?
Well, we did. I would be happy to show
We're
you.
going to see some lean cows and some cameras, real time working.
Well, I can show that to you. Again.
Sorry. Then what's your deliverable going to be? Like, are you going to have like certain things we would select? Like,
So, how do I get it back on the screen? Okay, so this is a farm, and as I showed you before, this would be the 3D image of a cow that went through at the previous session. When we're looking here, this would be, this is all of the cows that are, that have been looked at today. Like you can see here, it has all the information, ear tag. This here would be the photos, and then this would be the 3D image of them, which is what I showed you. Her information here, when we go through details, that gives you her body condition score, and then essentially what we're looking at here, this is what she is today. So that is what she is at this point. This gives you her state. When we see, these would be cows in red that would be on your alert system that is here up top, which can be put into your herd monitoring software, and we can integrate with somebody to show you things, so you don't have to come to this every single day. Here, I'm right here. This is your locomotion score. So static is 0. We want cows ideally to be at 0. So the higher the number off is, then the higher the number is off, then there's something wrong with her. And these cows, within whatever your allotment is, whatever we determine you want your allotment to be, that alert would be generated for you as well. And so, like we're talking about, it would be a deviation standpoint that we would have to put in, like when you put in a hoof trimming event on whatever, so we would then send that alert so it wouldn't generate just a slug of cows that are going to overwhelm you, swamp you. Yes?
we actually look at cows' mobility on that particular 3D screen that you had on the web.
So this is not a dynamic of her. This is the 3D image. But when you, no, I can't show you a 3D image of her walking, if that's what you're asking. No. The answer is no. Sure, unless you have a sort, because we could potentially send a call to a herd management software to have, sort that animal off. Did I answer your question on lameness at all?
Yeah, thinking about it.
Okay. Yes. Yes. No, it's real time. It's real time.
So the parameters for checking on deviations are set nominally by whom?
Yeah, so your summary would essentially be here at the top. So when we look at this, this is the distribution of what your herd completely is looking like. And then when we scroll over, it gives you in groups, and then you can sort out in groups here also. It shows you how your different groups of cows are producing. And then you can, micro that down or look at it whole herd wise. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes.
I walked into this late, so I'm sorry if you covered this already, but is there any application with this technology for genetic classification data, or are any countries already using it in that manner? Or?
That is a great question. I do not believe so. I do not believe that a country is using it specifically for that, but that would be a great tool for it. And if not anything else, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, we're in the tent.